Like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more amazing video. Respect!
He was just a passenger, but when the ship failed, even the alien pilots gasped as the human Max Reeves swirled the iridescent blue liquid in his glass, watching as it caught the light from the three small suns visible through the massive viewport of the celestial Voyager. The luxury cruise liner was the pride of the Astralan fleet, all gleaming surfaces and elegant curves designed to impress even the wealthiest passengers from across 17 star systems. Another nebula twist, sir?" asked the bartender, a four-armed Korean with skin the color of burnished copper. "Why not?" Max replied with an easy smile. "Not like I have anywhere to be." That was the beauty of retirement. After 15 years as a combat pilot for Earth's Interstellar Defense Force, followed by another 10 flying commercial transport ships, Max had finally decided to enjoy the fruits of his labor. His first decision: book passage on the most luxurious alien cruise ship that would accept human credits. The bartender slid another drink across the polished surface. "First time on an Astralan vessel? That obvious, huh?" Max chuckled, his broad shoulders shifting under his tailored navy shirt. At 45, he kept himself in exceptional shape, old military habits dying hard. His dark hair was cut short with precise edges, peppered with just enough gray to suggest experience rather than age. "Most humans stick to their own ships," the bartender observed. "You're one of only 3 aboard." Max took a sip of his drink. "Always preferred the road less traveled. And how is that road treating you so far?" A melodic voice floated from his left. Max turned to find himself staring into the most captivating sea-green eyes he'd ever seen. They belonged to a woman, at least he assumed she was female, with smooth turquoise skin that seemed to shimmer with silver flecks under the ambient lighting. Her hair cascaded down her back in thick strands of white and pale blue, and her form-fitting emerald outfit accentuated curves that were surprisingly similar to human anatomy. "Better by the minute," Max replied, raising his glass slightly. "Max Reeves." "Nira Thalasi," she said, sliding onto the stool beside him. "Anthropological researcher. I study interspecies cultural exchange." "And am I being studied right now?" Max asked with a hint of a smirk. Her lips, fuller than a human's and with a subtle blue tint, curved upward. "Perhaps. Humans fascinate me. You're so, adaptable." "That's one word for it," Max said. "Most species call us reckless." "Is that why you're the only human in the Platinum class section of an Astralan ship?" She ordered something that looked like liquid moonlight in a tall, twisted glass. "Just wanted to change the scenery. After flying ships my whole life, it's nice to be a passenger for once." Nira's eyes widened slightly. "A pilot? Military? Former idea, then commercial. Now just a man enjoying his retirement." "How interesting." She took a delicate sip of her drink. "Most species consider humans to be exceptional pilots. Something about your unique neurological wiring and spatial awareness." Max shrugged. "We're all right. Though I'd put credits on those Astralan pilots up on the bridge. I toured the cockpit yesterday. Their navigation systems are unlike anything I've seen." "Captain Eldon is quite proud of his ship," Nira agreed, "though I find the crew a bit overconfident." As if summoned by their conversation, the ship's communication system chimed softly. "Esteemed passengers," came a smooth voice, "this is Captain Eldon. We will soon be passing through a region of space known for its spectacular stellar formations. Viewports will automatically adjust to optimal viewing conditions. Enjoy the journey." Max and Nira turned toward the massive viewport as the ship's lighting dimmed. Outside, swirls of cosmic dust painted in purples and blues began to appear, illuminated by distant stars. "Beautiful," Nira murmured. "Worth the price of admission," Max agreed, though he found himself stealing glances at her profile rather than the view outside. The ship glided smoothly through the colorful nebula, its advanced engines barely making a sound. Max was impressed. He'd flown some high-end vessels in his time, but nothing with this level of refinement. Their peaceful appreciation was interrupted when the ship suddenly lurched to one side. Max's drink sloshed over the rim of his glass, and Nira steadied herself against the bar. "That's not right," Max muttered, his pilot's instincts immediately alert. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized at half their normal brightness. The ship's communication system crackled. "This is Captain Eldon," came the voice, now strained. "We are experiencing some technical difficulties. Please remain calm and stay in your current locations." Max exchanged a glance with Nira. Technical difficulties on an Astralan flagship? That's like saying water's decided to flow uphill. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Emergency lights activated along the floor, pulsing in a soft amber glow. "Something's wrong with the stabilizers," Max said, standing up, "and probably the navigation system." "How can you tell?" Nira asked, rising beside him. "Because we're listing to port, and the inertial dampeners are struggling to compensate." He pointed to a decorative water feature where the liquid was clearly tilting, despite the artificial gravity. A third jolt rocked the ship, sending several passengers tumbling to the floor. Panic began to spread through the lounge as beings of various species looked around in confusion and fear. "I need to get to the bridge," Max said decisively. Nira caught his arm. "You're a passenger. They won't let you in." Max's expression hardened with determination. "Watch me." The corridor to the bridge pitched violently as Max and Nira hurried forward. Emergency lighting cast an amber glow across the walls, making Nira's turquoise skin appear almost golden. Crew members, all Astralan with their characteristic blue skin and immaculate uniforms, rushed past them, their normally composed demeanors replaced with barely concealed panic. "You really think they'll let you help?" Nira asked, keeping pace with Max's determined stride. "They won't have a choice," Max replied, his jaw set. "That last jolt wasn't mechanical failure. We've hit some kind of storm system." As if to confirm his assessment, the ship lurched again. Max instinctively reached out, catching Nira before she could fall, his hand pressed against the small of her back, the thin material of her outfit doing little to mask the warmth of her skin. Their eyes met briefly, and Max felt an unexpected surge of heat that had nothing to do with the ship's emergency. "Thanks," she murmured, her voice lower than before. She didn't immediately pull away. "Don't mention it," he replied, equally quiet. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither had anticipated. Another violent shudder of the ship broke the spell. They continued toward the bridge, now only a few meters ahead. 2 security officers stood at the entrance, their postures rigid despite the ship's instability. "Passengers are not permitted on the bridge during emergency procedures," one stated firmly. "I'm Max Reeves, former IDF combat pilot. Your ship is caught in an electromagnetic storm that's disrupting your navigation systems. I can help." The guards exchanged glances. "Wait here," one said, disappearing through the door. Nira leaned close to Max. "How did you know it was an electromagnetic storm?" "The pattern of system failures. Navigational first, then communications, now stabilizers. Classic EM cascade." He glanced at her with a half-smile. "I've flown through a few." The door slid open, revealing a bridge in chaos. Displays flickered with static, and the main view screen showed a swirling mass of energy that definitely wasn't the scenic nebula they'd been promised. Captain Eldon, a tall Astralan with aristocratic features, looked up sharply. "This is highly irregular, but my first officer says you're qualified. What do you suggest, human?" Max moved immediately to the navigation console, where 2 pilots, one male, one female, were frantically trying to maintain control. "Your systems are too sensitive," Max said, scanning the displays. "They're designed for precision, but this storm is overwhelming them with contradictory data." The female pilot, her blue skin pale with stress, glared at him. "Our systems are the most advanced in the quadrant." "And that's the problem," Max replied without hesitation. "You need to disengage the automatic response protocols and switch to manual control." "Manual?" The male pilot looked horrified. "No one flies Astralan ships manually." Captain Eldon stepped closer. "What he's suggesting is impossible. Our navigation systems are integrated with..." The ship violently pitched sideways, throwing several crew members to the floor. Warning alarms blared from multiple stations. "Hull integrity at 70% and falling," reported an officer. We don't have time to debate this, Max said firmly. Your fancy tech can't handle this storm. Basic piloting can. The captain hesitated, then nodded sharply. Do it. The pilots reluctantly moved aside. Max took the main control seat, his hands hovering over the unfamiliar interface. I need to feel the ship, he muttered. Where's your manual override? The female pilot reached across him, her arm brushing his shoulder as she entered a complex sequence. The control panel transformed, simplifying into a more direct interface. Max grasped the controls, feeling the resistance as the ship fought against the storm's influence. It was like trying to ride a wild stallion with silk reins, but he'd flown worse. Nira, he called over his shoulder, I need you to watch that display and tell me when the energy readings spike. She moved to his side without question, her presence a steady anchor as he wrestled with the ship's controls. The storm's getting stronger, she reported, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. Energy readings are fluctuating wildly. Max nodded, making minute adjustments. We can't outrun it or go around it. We need to ride it out. Like surfing a wave, Nira asked. Max shot her a surprised glance. You know about surfing? A small smile played on her lips. I told you, I study cultures. I've spent time on Earth. Something warm unfurled in Max's chest at that revelation, but he forced his focus back to the task at hand. The ship shuddered as he turned it directly into the heart of the storm. What are you doing? Captain Eldon demanded. Trust me, Max replied, his voice steady with confidence. Sometimes you have to go through to get out. As they plunged deeper into the electromagnetic maelstrom, the lights flickered more violently. The crew held their breath, watching as this human, this passenger, handled their sophisticated vessel with an instinctive grace that defied their understanding. Nira stood close beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his shoulder when the ship lurched particularly hard. Each touch sent a jolt through Max that had nothing to do with the storm outside. Energy spike coming, she warned, her lips close to his ear. Max nodded, adjusting his grip on the controls. Hold on to something. The ship plunged into the heart of the storm, systems screaming in protest. For 3 terrifying seconds, everything went dark. Then, with a final violent shudder, they burst through to clear space on the other side. The bridge erupted in relieved exclamations as systems began to recover. Max released the controls, suddenly aware of the sweat dampening his shirt. Nira's eyes met his, filled with something that made his pulse quicken. That was impressive, she said softly. Captain Eldon approached, his expression a mixture of relief and wounded pride. It seems we owe you our gratitude, Mr. Reeves. Max stood, offering a respectful nod. Just glad I could help. As they left the bridge, Nira walked closer to Max than strictly necessary. In the relative privacy of the corridor, she touched his arm, stopping him. I've studied many species, she said, her voice intimate in the dimly lit passage. But humans continue to surprise me. Max felt the heat of her gaze. Good surprises, I hope. Her fingers trailed lightly down his arm. Very good. Perhaps we could continue our conversation somewhere more private, and I have many questions about human capabilities. Max felt his heart rate accelerate in a way no emergency ever caused. I think that could be arranged. Damage report, Captain Eldon demanded as the bridge crew scrambled to assess their situation. A young Astrolon officer looked up from his console, his blue face ashen. Sir, the primary propulsion system is offline. Secondary systems at 30% capacity. Hull breaches on deck 7 and 9, contained by emergency force field. Max, who had remained on the bridge at the captain's reluctant request, exchanged a glance with Nira. They both knew what this meant. We need to land, Max stated flatly. Your ship can't maintain space flight in this condition. Captain Eldon's jaw tightened. The Celestial Voyager is not designed for planetary landing. It's either a controlled landing or an uncontrolled crash, Max countered. There's a habitable planet in this system, isn't there? I saw it on the navigation display before we hit the storm. The first officer nodded reluctantly. Terrafex 4, technically within our territory, but largely unexplored. Any inhabitants? Nira asked. Primitive indigenous species, the first officer replied. Pre-spaceflight. We've had minimal contact. Captain Eldon paced the bridge, clearly wrestling with his options. Finally, he turned to Max. "Can you land this vessel?" "I can try," Max answered honestly. "But I'll need your pilot's help. They know the ship better than I do." The female pilot, whose name Max had learned was Lieutenant Pax, stepped forward. "I'll assist." Within minutes, they were descending toward Terrafex 4, the damaged ship groaning in protest. Max's hands moved steadily over the controls, working in surprising harmony with Lieutenant Pax, despite their different training. "Atmosphere entry in 30 seconds, Pax announced, her professional demeanor firmly back in place. Max nodded. "Angle of approach looks good. We'll aim for that plateau near the equator. Looks flat enough for our needs." The ship shuddered violently as they hit the upper atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Hull temperature rising," reported an officer. "Structural integrity at 65%. "We're coming in too hot," Pax warned, her fingers dancing across her controls. Max's expression remained calm. "Compensating. Nira, what's our trajectory looking like?" Nira, who had taken over a secondary navigation station, responded immediately. "You're right on target. The plateau is 12 kilometers ahead." The view screen showed clouds rushing past as they descended through the atmosphere, then cleared to reveal a vast landscape of purple-tinged vegetation and strange rock formations. "Brace for landing," Max called out as he fought to keep the massive vessel level. The ship hit the ground with a bone-jarring impact, skidding across the plateau surface. Metal screamed in protest as the vessel plowed a deep furrow into the alien soil before finally coming to rest. For a moment, silence reigned on the bridge. Then the damage reports began flooding in. "We're down in one piece," Captain Eldon said, sounding almost surprised. "Good work, Mr. Reeves." Max released his white-knuckled grip on the controls. "Thanks, but we're not out of trouble yet." "Indeed," the captain agreed. "We need to assess damage, begin repairs, and establish a secure perimeter. This planet is largely unknown to us." As the captain issued orders to his crew, Max felt Nira's hand on his shoulder. "That was remarkable flying," she said softly. He turned to face her, suddenly aware of how close she was standing. "Just doing what needed to be done." "That seems to be a human trait," she observed, her sea-green eyes studying him intently. "Doing what needs to be done, regardless of protocol or convention. We're adaptable," Max replied with a slight smile. "It's how we've survived." "It's more than that," Nira said. Her hand remained on his shoulder, her touch sending warmth through his body, despite the ship's cooling systems working overtime. "There's a directness to humans that most species find either terrifying or fascinating." "And which do you find it?" Max asked, his voice lower. Her lips curved into a smile that made his pulse quicken. "Definitely fascinating." Their moment was interrupted by Captain Eldon. "Mr. Reeves, since you've proven yourself useful, I'd like you to join the initial survey team. We need to establish whether this location is secure." "I'll come too," Nira volunteered. "I have experience with first contact situations." Outside the ship, Terrafex 4's twin suns cast an amber glow over the landscape. The air was breathable but carried unfamiliar scents. Something like cinnamon mixed with ozone. The survey team, consisting of Max, Nira, Lieutenant Pax, and 2 security officers, moved cautiously away from the ship. "Readings show no immediate threats," Pax reported, scanning with a handheld device. "Local flora appears non-toxic to most humanoid species." Max surveyed the strange terrain. "Good landing spot at least. Flat, solid ground. Good visibility." "Yeah," Nira agreed, walking beside him. "Almost too convenient, don't you think?" Before Max could respond, a sound like a horn echoed across the plateau. The team froze, weapons raised. From the edge of the purple forest emerged a group of beings, clearly sentient, roughly humanoid, but with gray-green skin and elaborate head crests. They carried spears and wore clothing made from local materials adorned with intricate patterns. "Indigenous population," Pax whispered. "They shouldn't be hostile. Astrolans have made peaceful contact before." But as the natives approached, their expressions changed from curiosity to unmistakable hostility when they spotted the Astrolans. They raised their spears, calling out in a language none of the team's translators could process. Something's wrong, Nira murmured. They recognize Astralans, and not favorably. The natives advanced menacingly toward the team, their spears pointed directly at the blue-skinned crew members. Max stepped forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Wait," he called out. "We mean no harm." The natives halted, their attention shifting to Max with obvious confusion. One of them, wearing more elaborate decorations than the others, stepped forward and spoke directly to Max, ignoring the Astralans entirely. Nira moved closer to Max, her shoulder brushing against his. "They're responding differently to you," she whispered. "They've never seen a human before." "Translation's coming through now," Pax reported, adjusting her device. "They're saying, the sky people return, but you are different." Max maintained eye contact with the native leader. "We had to land here for repairs. We'll leave as soon as possible." After the translation, the natives conferred among themselves. Then the leader pointed at the Astralans with clear disdain before addressing Max again. "They say," Pax translated hesitantly, "the blue ones betrayed our ancestors, but you, stranger of pink skin, you may speak for your group." The native leader, who Max now knew was called Krell, led them to a settlement nestled at the edge of the purple forest. Captain Eldon had reluctantly agreed to let Max serve as their ambassador, though he insisted on maintaining communication with the ship. "I don't like this," Lieutenant Pax muttered as they walked. "These primitives should be honored by our presence. The Astralan Confederacy has brought prosperity to countless worlds." Max shot her a warning glance. "Maybe keep those thoughts to yourself for now." The settlement was a collection of dome-shaped structures built from local stone and wood, arranged in concentric circles around a central plaza. As they entered, Max noticed intricate carvings on many of the buildings, and froze when he recognized unmistakably human figures among the alien designs. "Nira," he whispered, pointing discreetly, "are those what I think they are?" She studied the carvings, her sea-green eyes widening. "Humans, or at least beings that look remarkably like humans. But that's impossible. Your species only achieved interstellar travel 60 years ago." Krell led them to the largest structure in the central plaza. Inside, a council of elders awaited them, seated in a semicircle. The walls were adorned with more carvings and what appeared to be ancient artifacts. After formal introductions, translated through Pax's device, the eldest council member addressed Max directly. "You bear the likeness of the ancient guides," he said, his voice carrying the weight of reverence. "Those who taught our ancestors before the blue betrayers came?" Max glanced at the Astralan officers, whose expressions had become carefully neutral. "I'm afraid I don't understand. My species, humans, we've never been to this part of space before." The elder pointed to a carving on the wall behind him. It clearly depicted humanoid figures descending from the sky, teaching the natives various skills. "The ancient guides came when our great great, 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 connector, great, 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 variant, great, 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 ghost rate, great, on variant, and great, 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 Anthony. The caution great bag crush, my god, the red grenade, crocus chet come on, letting great, great, grenade, garden, red, edin, main, red, got great. Get granny, go for me, good to me, good grenade and raid and ready, good egg, it is a grenade, great, great, cheat, great, me, great, sheet, angry, good orange, gun mask, go raw, coffee, and great, good, it grow, great, grandman, good, great, to get away, great, 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 sheet, great, she grow, grab it, great, grab it, grab it, grab it, good, I said, great, garbage, grace, great, in gray, made great, and grab it, great, and Queen and Gorn, I didn't great elm, I read the tries of grain in non kinds Ryan, good drum way, could they just serene and guarded a more say. Great, carrying what rock, pretty hot, great career now. Good sudden to create this great in correlated credit, quite good, come in, craft on theater, crash can tell you 10 on right, I think grand. Graded garbage, our right, Gurin, Hanto great, Kakish and Garden right. Great were flag friendly and courage, graciated Garaquidi, now will keep the main creating. Creating Gritanic dreaded foot and created great, did one. Great man, and my rig, Dory Metgate, a shree aspen, ready shore in a year, yet you great grin, sure journey at the Gregan, the great gets quoted and rent. A straight quickly broken and the Gorby, Brown and Jiggers rating dartpin and assumes on the grass and the greatest home. If a ranking a deed that can never be connected to gain that, a great super day, the Euroscreen about a framer, you frigate or rip around for them, green tea per day, nor side of a suspension. We hadn't with up to our break, right cook cigarettes at a grenade, Rowers going to degree. Didn't just free she's the garmenting. No, gonna turn on me a more on match for narnony. Concerning good warrant you are among the right, Kedam, Redmondton, or screaming on it, Creed Renado, Creedy or set them on reading, but Creedy or Sharment and the two way on the Nana was bringing out and Brain never Preston, Cadillac Christa Christianado's grandmother. Gravers for Nagardine was worried for Colonel Roman and Brown and Greedy Sitter Group and Gritty Reckon Jody and Granite and wanted Robo Great on Anastron and Ingrid Run. He done Ram and Graden. Rio deep cramp at them. Says some river and Mother Prince for them were led to Eddie Rila and correctly did the year when I'm brained. So Gracie is grace it controls 50 years away for incorporators. Gross guard kicked in try man, brass and not heard. And great, to great at night. A pretty grey among those for the man and one for it for a big press hit. A great way and glory, trade as your category creator. Scrape to go out, let's trade the crowds and great red great train at great, great, it can great, great, dragon and grain, it's green, around it, reskin and reckon on great, grand, and great, gray, grandman, grandma, Brandon, great, Jane, graded. They taught us to farm, to build, to heal. They said they would return. And then the blue ones came, Krell added bitterly. They promised to honor the teachings of the guides, but instead, they took... Lieutenant Pack stepped forward, her posture defensive. This is absurd. The Astralan Confederacy has only peaceful relations with developing worlds. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Max felt tension building and decided to redirect the conversation. What did they take? He asked Krell. The sacred stones, another elder answered. The gift of the ancient guides. Stones that glowed with inner light and could heal any wound. Power, any tool. Max's military instincts kicked in. This wasn't just a cultural misunderstanding. This sounded like resource exploitation disguised as peaceful contact. Captain Eldon never mentioned any special resources on this planet, Max said carefully. Nira, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. Because it's not in the official records? Her voice was tight with what sounded like shame. Max, I think I know what they're talking about. All eyes turned to her. Stellarite, she continued, a rare mineral that can store and amplify energy. It's the foundation of Astralan faster-than-light technology. Official records state it was discovered on an uninhabited moon. A convenient lie, Krell spat. Max felt a cold weight in his stomach. He looked at Nira, searching her face. Did you know about this? No, she answered immediately, meeting his gaze. My research focused on contemporary cultural exchange, not history, but there have always been rumors. One of the elders rose shakily to his feet and approached a sealed container at the back of the chamber. With reverent hands, he removed a small glowing blue stone that pulsed with inner light. "Our last sacred stone," he said, "hidden when the blue ones came. For generations, we have guarded it, waiting for the ancient guides to return." He held it out toward Max. "And now you have come." Max hesitated. I can't claim to be one of your ancient guides." "Yet you bear their likeness," the elder insisted, "and you command the blue ones who fear you." Lieutenant Pax made a small noise of protest, but remained silent when Max glanced her way. The stone in the elder's hand pulsed more brightly as Max approached. When he carefully took it, the glow intensified dramatically, casting his face in ethereal blue light. "It recognizes you," Krell whispered in awe. Max felt a strange warmth spreading from the stone through his hand and up his arm. Not unpleasant, but alien. The sensation reminded him of the first time he'd broken the sound barrier in an experimental aircraft. That moment of crossing a threshold into something new. "The stones respond to certain neural patterns," Nira explained quietly, moving to stand beside him. "Astralan scientists have never fully understood why they work better with some individuals than others." "It seems they work best with humans," Max replied, watching the stone pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Later, as they were shown to guest quarters to rest before further discussions, Max and Nira found themselves alone in a small but comfortable room, lined with soft furs and fragrant dried plants. "You're angry," Nira observed, sitting beside him on a low bench. "Wouldn't you be? Your people lied about first contact with this species, stole their resources, and apparently left them to rot." "They're not my people in that sense," she replied, a flash of irritation crossing her features. "I'm Thalassian, not Astralan. We're part of the same confederacy, but different species entirely." Max ran a hand through his hair. "Sorry, that was unfair." "But not entirely wrong," she admitted, her voice softening. "The Confederacy has convenient gaps in its historical records. Most citizens don't question it. And the ones who do find themselves in academic backwaters or worse." She placed her hand over his where it rested on his knee. "I've suspected things like this, Max. It's why I became an anthropological researcher, to find the truth." The touch of her hand sent warmth through him that had nothing to do with the strange stone now secured in his pocket. In the soft light of the room, the silver flecks in her turquoise skin seemed to dance. "Truth is rarely simple," Max said, turning his hand to intertwine his fingers with hers. "No," she agreed, moving closer until their thighs touched. "But some things are." Her free hand came up to trace the line of his jaw, her touch feather-light. "I've been drawn to you since the moment we met, Max Reeves. Human directness has its appeal." Max felt his pulse quicken as he leaned in, closing the distance between them. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with growing hunger. Her skin was warmer than a human's, with a faint taste like sea salt and honey. When they finally parted, both breathing harder, Max rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he murmured. Nira laughed softly. "I think things were already complicated." Her fingers traced patterns on the back of his neck. "But perhaps we can find clarity together." Dawn broke over Terrafex 4 in a spectacular display of amber and magenta as Max awoke beside Nira. Her turquoise skin seemed to glow in the early light filtering through the dwelling's small window. The night they'd shared had been a revelation. Their bodies different yet complementary, their passion transcending the boundaries of their respective species. Nira stirred, her sea-green eyes opening to meet his. "You're staring," she murmured, a smile playing at her lips. "Hard not to," Max replied, tracing a finger along the silver flecks on her shoulder. "You're beautiful." She leaned in to kiss him, but they were interrupted by an urgent knock at the door. Max reluctantly pulled away, quickly dressing before answering. Krell stood outside, his expression grave. "The blue ones are demanding your return." Their leader came himself. Max frowned. "Captain Eldon is here?" "He brings others." They arrived in a small flying machine from the great ship. Max exchanged a concerned glance with Nira, who was now dressing hurriedly. "We should go see what this is about." In the central plaza, Captain Eldon stood with Lieutenant Pax and 4 armed security officers. Their postures were rigid, their expressions cold. "Mr. Reeves," Eldon said stiffly, "your presence is required back at the ship. Repairs are progressing and will be departing within 48 hours. Max noted the captain's careful avoidance of any mention of their discoveries. "What's the rush, Captain? I thought the damage was extensive." "Our engineers are efficient," Eldon replied. His gaze shifted to the stone dwelling where the Council of Elders resided. "We've also detected unusual energy readings in this settlement. As representatives of the Astralan Confederacy, we have a duty to investigate potential hazards." Max felt the stellarite stone pulse warmly in his pocket. "Hazards? Or resources?" Eldon's expression hardened. "I don't appreciate your implication, Mr. Reeves. You're a passenger on my vessel, nothing more." "A passenger who saved your ship," Max countered, "and who's now learning some interesting history about Astralan interactions with this planet." The captain stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Whatever these primitives have told you is irrelevant. The official records are clear." "Official records can be falsified," Nira interjected, moving to stand beside Max. "The stellarite that powers our ships, it came from here, didn't it? Taken without proper compensation or consent." Eldon's face flushed a darker blue. "Dr. Thalassi, you forget yourself. Your research grant comes from the Confederacy Council." "Truth outweighs funding, Captain," she replied coolly. The tension was broken when Krell approached with the council elder who had shown them the sacred stone. "The ancient guides left more than stones," the elder announced. "They left wisdom in the Temple of Stars. If the pink one truly shares their blood, he should see." "We don't have time for primitive superstitions," Eldon snapped. Max ignored him. "What temple?" "Beyond the forest," Krell explained, "a day's journey. The place where the ancient guides first descended from the stars." Before anyone could respond, the communications officer from the ship rushed into the plaza. "Captain!" Urgent message from Confederacy Command. "Another vessel has entered the system and is not responding to hails." Eldon's expression shifted from annoyance to concern. "Identification?" "Mining Guild Registry, sir. The resource extractor." Nira inhaled sharply. "Mining Guild? Here? They must have detected our emergency beacon?" Eldon muttered. "This complicates matters." Max didn't miss the calculating look that passed between the captain and Lieutenant Pax. "What aren't you telling us, Captain?" After a moment's hesitation, Eldon sighed. "The Mining Guild operates with considerable autonomy within the Confederacy. They have extraction rights that supersede most regulations, including those protecting indigenous populations," Nira asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "If there are valuable resources," Eldon began. "Like stellarite," Max interrupted. "Then yes, they have priority access." The captain straightened his uniform. "But that's irrelevant. We need to return to the ship immediately to deal with this situation." Max felt the stone in his pocket grow warmer, almost as if responding to his rising anger. "I'm going to see this temple first." "That is not advisable," Eldon said sharply. "As captain, I order you—" "I'm not under your command," Max reminded him. "I'm a passenger, remember? And right now I'm accepting the native's invitation." The captain's face darkened. "Lieutenant Pax, escort Mr. Reeves back to the ship. By force if necessary." The security officers moved forward, hands on their weapons. Max tensed, ready for a confrontation, but Nira stepped between them. "Captain, think about what you're doing," she warned. "Assaulting a human citizen could trigger an interspecies incident. Is that what you want in your record?" Eldon hesitated, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he stepped back. "You have 12 hours, Mr. Reeves. Then we leave, with or without you." As the Astralan officers departed, Max turned to Krell. "We need to move quickly. How soon can we leave for this temple?" "Immediately," the native leader replied, "but the journey is dangerous." "I'm coming too," Nira declared, her hand finding Max's and squeezing it firmly. Max raised an eyebrow. "What about your research grant?" She smiled, the silver flecks in her skin catching the morning light. "Some discoveries are worth more than funding." The journey through the purple forest was arduous but swift. Krell led them along hidden paths known only to the natives, moving with surprising speed for one who appeared so aged. As they traveled, he explained more about their history. The ancient guides came when our ancestors still lived in caves, he said. They taught us to build, to farm, to heal. They said one day their children would return to the stars. And you believe these guides were human? Max asked. They looked as you do, Krell confirmed. Their skin varied in color, but all had your form. They lived among us for many seasons before returning to the stars. Max exchanged a glance with Nira. That's impossible. Humans only achieved spaceflight a few centuries ago, and interstellar travel much more recently. Perhaps not all humans developed at the same rate, Nira suggested, or perhaps some achieved greatness and then fell back. The stellarite in Max's pocket seemed to pulse more strongly as they climbed a steep ridge. At the summit, Krell stopped and pointed to a valley below. The Temple of Stars, he announced. Max's breath caught in his throat. Rising from the valley floor was an unmistakable structure, a pyramid of gleaming black material, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Around it stood smaller structures, partially reclaimed by the purple vegetation but clearly artificial. That's not a primitive temple, Nira whispered. That's advanced architecture. The ancient guides built it, Krell said proudly. Only those of their blood may enter the inner chamber. As they descended toward the temple, Max felt the stellarite stone growing almost uncomfortably warm in his pocket. Something about this place was activating it, or it was responding to something here. I've never seen anything like this in Confederacy records, Nira said, her researcher's curiosity evident in her voice. I'm guessing that's by design, Max replied grimly. If the Astralans found this place, they'd strip it bare. At the base of the pyramid, they discovered an entrance, a doorway shaped like an elongated hexagon, inscribed with symbols that looked strangely familiar to Max. Those almost look like Earth languages, he murmured, tracing a symbol that resembled ancient Sanskrit. The writings of the guides, Krell confirmed. Only they could open the door. Max removed the stellarite from his pocket. It was now glowing brilliantly, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. As he approached the doorway, the stone's light intensified, and the symbols on the door began to glow in response. With a sound like a deep exhalation, the door slid open, revealing a corridor that descended into the heart of the pyramid. Krell stepped back, his expression reverent. You are of their blood. Enter and receive their wisdom. Max looked at Nira, who nodded encouragingly. I'm right behind you. Together they stepped into the ancient structure, unaware that high above them, the resource extractor had entered orbit and was preparing to send down its own landing party. The corridor descended deep into the pyramid, illuminated by strips of light that activated as they passed. Max led the way, the stellarite stone in his palm now pulsing with a steady blue glow that matched the temple's internal lighting. This technology shouldn't exist, Nira whispered, her fingers trailing along the smooth walls. It's responding to your presence, Max. Not just responding, Max replied. It feels like recognition. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. A central platform housed what appeared to be a control console, surrounded by holographic displays frozen in time. The walls were lined with storage units in what looked suspiciously like weapons racks. This isn't a temple, Max murmured. It's a command center. As he stepped onto the platform, the entire room hummed to life. Holographic displays flickered and stabilized, showing star charts, technical schematics, and text in a language that seemed both alien and strangely familiar to Max. A's voice spoke, not in the native's language, but in an archaic form of English that Max could barely understand. Genetic profile recognized. Descendant of Earth Expedition Vanguard. Access granted. Max and Nira exchanged stunned glances. Earth Expedition? Max repeated. What is this place? The holographic display shifted, showing images of Earth, ancient Earth, with civilizations that predated recorded history. Outpost Terrafex, established 15,000 Earth years ago, the voice responded. Final command center of the Human Stellar Alliance during the Cataclysm War. Human Stellar Alliance? Max's voice was barely a whisper. That's impossible. Not impossible, Nira said, her researcher's mind racing. Just forgotten. Max, this changes everything we know about human history. The display shifted again, showing images of a devastating interstellar conflict, massive ships exchanging fire, planets reduced to cinder, and finally a desperate retreat. The Cataclysm War resulted in the fall of the Human Stellar Alliance, the voice continued. Emergency Protocol Omega was enacted. All off-world human populations returned to Earth. Advanced technology was dismantled to prevent detection. Earth was quarantined until humanity could rebuild. They reset their own civilization, Nira breathed, to protect what remained. Max felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. His ancestors had achieved greatness, lost it, and then clawed their way back to the stars over thousands of years. What about the natives of this world? He asked. Indigenous population of Terrafex 4 was protected and guided by remaining human outpost personnel. Cultural exchange program implemented. Technological assistance provided within safe parameters. The ancient guides, Max nodded. They stayed behind to help. Affirmative. Final human outpost personnel remain until natural end of lifespan. This facility was sealed 14,200 Earth years ago, awaiting return of human descendants. Max placed the stellarite stone on the console. And this? What is this material? The display shifted to show molecular structures. Quantum resonance crystal, primary power source for Human Stellar Alliance technology, designated as protected resource for indigenous population use. Not meant to be stripped from the planet to power alien ships, Max said grimly. Negative. Unauthorized harvesting detected 320 local years ago. Defense protocols disabled by unknown means. Nira stepped forward. The Astralin Confederacy. They must have found a way to bypass the security systems. And they've been lying about it ever since, Max added, rewriting history to hide their theft. A new alert flashed across the displays. Warning, unauthorized vessels detected in orbit, weapon signatures identified, hostile intent probable. The Mining Guild, Nira said. They must be preparing to land. Max studied the displays, noting what appeared to be defensive systems. Can this facility defend against them? Defensive capabilities at 43% capacity, insufficient to repel modern military assault. Max's military training kicked in. What about repair protocols? The cruise ship is damaged. Can this technology help fix it? Affirmative. Repair drones available. Compatible with most propulsion and structural systems. And weapons? Max asked, eyeing the racks along the walls. Limited personal defense weapons operational, powered by quantum resonance crystals. Max turned to Nira, his expression determined. We need to get back to the ship. Warn Eldon about the Mining Guild and get these repair drones working. You think he'll listen? Nira asked skeptically. He will when I show him what I've found. Max picked up one of the ancient weapons which hummed to life in his hand. And when I tell him what I'm about to do… As they prepared to leave, Max noticed Nira studying him with an intensity that made his skin warm. What? He asked. You, she replied, moving closer. Finding out you're descended from an advanced spacefaring civilization that once spanned the stars, it doesn't seem to surprise you much. Max shrugged. Explains a few things, actually. Humans have always looked up at the stars and felt like we belong there. Most species would be overwhelmed by such a revelation. We adapt, he said simply. It's what humans do. Nira's hand found his, her fingers intertwining with his. It's more than that. You're standing in a forgotten command center of an ancient human empire, holding technology that's been lost for millennia, and you're already planning your next move. No wonder the Stellarite responds to you. Max felt a surge of something primal and possessive as he looked at her. This brilliant, beautiful alien woman who saw him so clearly. He pulled her close, his free hand sliding to the small of her back. Coming from you, he murmured. That's quite a compliment. Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and urgent, bodies pressing together as if trying to bridge the vast differences in their origins. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. We should go, Max said reluctantly, before the Mining Guild lands. Nira nodded, though her sea-green eyes remained fixed on his. This isn't over, she promised, her voice low and intimate. Definitely not, he agreed with a smile that made her silver flecks shimmer more brightly. They gathered what they needed: repair drones, weapons, and data crystals containing the facility's knowledge. As they prepared to leave, Max placed his hand on the main console one last time. "System," he commanded, "initiate full reactivation protocols. Authorization: Human Stellar Alliance Descendant. Processing genetic verification," the system responded. "Confirmed. Full reactivation will require 12 standard hours. Warning: full reactivation will alert any HSA technology in this sector." "Do it," Max ordered. "It's time for this outpost to wake up." As they emerged from the pyramid, they found Krell waiting anxiously. "Metal birds descend from the sky," he reported. "The blue ones argue among themselves." Max looked up to see a mining guild shuttle breaking atmosphere, its bulky silhouette unmistakable against the amber sky. "We need to move," he told Nira. "Fast." They raced back through the purple forest, the ancient technology secured in Max's pack. The stellarite stone now hung around his neck on a cord Nira had fashioned, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. With each step, Max felt something changing within him. A connection to the stone growing stronger, more intuitive. Knowledge seemed to flow from it into his mind, not in words, but in concepts, instincts, abilities. "Max," Nira said as they paused briefly for water, "your eyes. What about them?" "They're glowing, the same blue as the stellarite." He didn't have time to process this development. In the distance, they heard the unmistakable sound of weapons fire. "The village," Max said grimly. "They've reached the settlement." The village was in chaos when Max and Nira arrived. Mining guild enforcers, hulking reptilian Dravex with armored exoskeletons, were herding natives into groups while others used scanning equipment to locate stellarite deposits. Captain Eldon and his officers stood by helplessly, outnumbered and outgunned. "This is a protected indigenous population," Eldon was arguing with the Dravex commander. "You have no authority." "We have every authority," the commander snarled, towering over the Astralan captain. "Mining Guild Extraction, Permit 7293, signed by your own Confederacy Council. Now stand aside or be classified as interfering with official operations." Max assessed the situation quickly. At least 20 Dravex enforcers, heavily armed, several natives already injured. The cruise ship passengers huddled in fear near the Celestial Voyager. "We need a distraction," Max whispered to Nira. "I need to get to the ship." "Why the ship?" she asked. "Trust me," he replied, the stellarite at his neck pulsing more rapidly. "I understand now." The stone had been feeding him knowledge since they left the outpost. Fragmented but clear enough to form a plan. The Celestial Voyager wasn't just built using stolen stellarite. Its entire design was based on reverse-engineered human stellar alliance technology. "I'll create your distraction," Nira said, squeezing his hand before slipping away through the underbrush. Max circled the perimeter of the village, the ancient weapon from the outpost humming softly in his grip. He was nearly to the ship when Nira's distraction came, a spectacular one. The repair drones they'd brought from the outpost suddenly activated, zooming over the village in formation, emitting blinding pulses of light that sent the Dravex into confusion. Max sprinted for the ship's main entrance, encountering 2 Dravex guards. Without hesitation, he fired the ancient weapon. It emitted not a beam or projectile, but a wave of energy that simply rendered the guards unconscious. Inside the ship, Max headed straight for the engine room. The few crew members he encountered stared in shock at his glowing blue eyes but didn't try to stop him. The engine core of the Celestial Voyager was a marvel of Astralan engineering, or so he had thought. Now, with the knowledge flowing from the stellarite, he saw it differently. The innovative design was merely a crude adaptation of human technology, the stellarite power source improperly harnessed. Max placed his hand on the main control panel. The ship's systems recognized him instantly, not as Max Reeves' passenger, but as a descendant of its original designers. "Initiate Emergency Protocol Omega-7, he commanded. "Authorization, Human Stellar Alliance Bloodline." The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized with a blue hue that matched his eyes. Throughout the vessel, hidden systems activated, recognizing the genetic signature of their true masters after millennia of dormancy. Outside, the situation was deteriorating. The Dravex had recovered from Nira's distraction and were now rounding up the natives with greater brutality. Captain Eldon and his officers had been disarmed and detained. Max emerged from the ship, the stellarite now glowing so brightly it shone through his clothing. He walked calmly toward the center of the village, where the Dravex commander was interrogating the native elders about stellarite locations. "That's enough," Max called out, his voice carrying an authority that made everyone turn. The Dravex commander laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Another interfering passenger? Deal with him." Two enforcers moved toward Max, weapons raised. He didn't flinch. The ancient weapon in his hand discharged 2 precise energy waves, dropping them instantly. "I said, that's enough," Max repeated, his glowing eyes fixed on the commander. "This planet is under the protection of the Human Stellar Alliance." "Human Stellar Alliance?" The commander scoffed. "A primitive species barely out of its home system? You have no authority here." "You might want to look up," Max suggested with a slight smile. Above them, the celestial Voyager was transforming. Panels shifted, revealing weapons systems that had been dormant since the ship's construction. They hummed with energy, all targeting the mining guild vessel in orbit. Simultaneously, from the direction of the temple, a pulse of blue energy shot skyward. The ancient outpost was fully online, its defensive systems activated. The Dravex commander's communicator crackled urgently. After listening for a moment, his expression shifted from arrogance to uncertainty. "What have you done?" he demanded. "Reclaim what's ours," Max answered simply. "Your ship's systems are now locked down. The stellarite in your engines has recognized its true masters." But it wasn't entirely a bluff. The outpost's reactivation signal had indeed triggered dormant protocols in any nearby technology containing stellarite, including the mining guild ship, which used it for its engines just as the Astrolans did. "Impossible!" the commander hissed, but his uncertainty was evident. "Humanity achieved interstellar travel thousands of years before your species discovered fire," Max said, the knowledge flowing through him from the stellarite. "We chose to step back from the stars after the Cataclysm War. That choice is now being reconsidered." Nira appeared at his side, her expression a mixture of awe and pride. "The Mining Guild has violated multiple treaties by attacking a protected population," she announced. "As a Confederacy anthropological researcher, I've documented everything." The commander looked from Max's glowing eyes to the armed ship overhead, then to his suddenly unresponsive troops, whose stellarite-powered weapons had deactivated. "This isn't over," he growled, but it clearly was. "Mining Guild Command will hear of this interference. They'll hear how the human passenger of a cruise ship single-handedly neutralized your illegal operation," Max corrected him. "I'm sure that will go over well at your next performance review." Within the hour, the Dravex had retreated to their ship and departed the system, their mission a humiliating failure. Captain Eldon approached Max cautiously, eyeing the still glowing stellarite at his neck. "Mr. Reeves," he began formally, "it seems I owe you an apology, and my thanks." "Not just to me," Max replied, nodding toward the natives. "Your Confederacy has some historical revisions to make." "Yes," Eldon agreed, surprising Max with his sincerity. "What you've revealed today, it changes everything we thought we knew about human history, and our own." "The repair drones will have the Celestial Voyager flight ready by morning," Max told him. "I suggest you use the time to draft a new treaty with the Terrafex natives, one that acknowledges their ownership of the stellarite and their right to determine its use." Later, as the twin suns set in a spectacular display of amber and magenta, Max and Nira stood at the edge of the village, watching the repair drones work on the ship. "So," Nira said, leaning against him, "descendant of a mighty interstellar empire, that's quite an upgrade from retired pilot." Max laughed, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Just a passenger who happened to be in the right place at the right time. A passenger who saved 2 ships, exposed a historical cover-up, stopped an illegal mining operation, and awakened ancient human technology," she corrected, turning to face him. "The Human Stellar Alliance would be proud." "What happens now?" he asked, suddenly serious. "This discovery will change everything. For humans, for the Confederacy, for us." Nira's fingers traced the line of his jaw, her touch sending warmth through him that had nothing to do with the stellarite. "I was planning to write a groundbreaking paper on interspecies cultural exchange," she murmured. I think I found my perfect case study. That could take years of close observation, Max pointed out, pulling her closer. I'm very thorough in my research, she replied, her lips curving in a smile that made his pulse quicken. And you, Max Reeves, are the most fascinating subject I've ever encountered. Their kiss was witnessed by the natives, who saw in it the return of their ancient guide's promise, that the stars would once again be within reach, by the Astralan crew, who recognized a shift in the galactic balance of power, and by the Stellarite itself, pulsing with the recognition of potential fulfilled. 3 months later, the celestial Voyager completed its cruise circuit and docked at Astralan Central Port. Among the disembarking passengers were a human man with occasionally glowing blue eyes, and a turquoise-skinned woman whose research on human-alien relations in the post-revelation era was already causing a sensation in academic circles. They had chosen to travel on together, representatives of a new understanding between species. The revelation of humanity's ancient past had sent shockwaves through the Confederacy, but the diplomatic crisis many had feared never materialized. Instead, a renaissance of cooperation had begun, with humans offering to share their rediscovered heritage in exchange for genuine partnership. As for Max and Nira, they had plans to visit Earth next, she to continue her research, he to share what he had learned with his own people. The Stellarite at his neck, now fashioned into a proper pendant, served as both a reminder of their adventure and a symbol of possibilities yet to come. Ready for the next journey? Nira asked, her fingers intertwined with his as they stepped onto the concourse. Max smiled, thinking of how far they had already come from that first flirtation over alien cocktails. With you? Always. Behind them, the crew of the Celestial Voyager watched with newfound respect. The human who had been just a passenger had changed their understanding of the universe and reminded everyone that sometimes the most extraordinary capabilities come from the most unexpected sources.